there is a silence that arrives with age. Not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of a forest after snowfall, where every branch holds something it no longer needs, and is learning, slowly, to let it fall. If you are listening to this, something inside you already knows. You have carried certain things for too long. Habits of the mind, postures of the heart, old agreements you made with yourself that no longer serve the person you are becoming. And the body knows it too. You can feel it in the tightness behind your ribs when you hold on to an argument that ended years ago. You can feel it in the shallow breath you take when you scroll through the lives of others, measuring yourself against images that were never real. The Buddha once said, "All conditioned things are subject to decay. Strive on with diligence." He was not issuing a command. He was offering something far more tender. A reminder that your time here is not infinite, and that the way you spend your remaining days is perhaps the most sacred choice you will ever make. This is not a lecture about growing old. This is an invitation to grow light, to set down what no longer belongs to you, the way autumn trees release their leaves, not in grief, but in trust. Trust that what falls away makes room for what is essential. To continue healing your body and soul through these ancient teachings, I invite you to join our path by subscribing to this sanctuary. Here, we walk together through the ancient forest of wisdom, one breath, one truth, one quiet revolution at a time. Take a slow breath in. Let your shoulders drop. Feel the weight of the air as it fills your lungs, and then let it go. Now, you are here. That is enough. Let us begin. The first thing to stop as you age is the habit of collecting grudges. There is an old Zen story about two monks walking through the rain. They came upon a woman standing at the edge of a muddy crossing, unable to get through without ruining her clothes. The elder monk lifted her, carried her across, and set her down on the other side. The woman walked on without a word. The two monks continued in silence for miles until the younger one finally burst out. "How could you carry that woman? We are not supposed to touch women." The elder monk looked at him calmly and said, "I set her down at the crossing. You are still carrying her." This is what grudges do. They turn moments into monuments. They take something that lasted seconds and stretch it across the years of your inner life. You replay the conversation. You rehearse what you should have said. You build a courtroom in your mind and hold trial after trial, and the verdict never brings peace. The Buddha called this patija, a Pali word meaning the impulse to push against, to resist, to strike back in the mind, even when the event is long gone. It is not anger itself that harms you. Anger arises and passes like weather. It is the holding, the rehearsing, the mental loop that turns a wound into an identity. Neuroscience confirms this. When you replay a painful memory, your brain activates the same stress pathways as the original event. Your cortisol rises. Your heart rate increases. Your body does not know the difference between remembering and reliving. So the invitation is not to forgive because it is noble. The invitation is to forgive because carrying that weight is slowly breaking your bones. Set it down, not because they deserve your forgiveness, because you deserve your freedom. Place your hand on your chest for a moment. Feel your heartbeat. That rhythm has been faithful to you since before you could speak. Ask yourself, is this grudge worthy of one more beat? The second thing to stop is the compulsive need to be right. When you were younger, being right felt like power. It meant you were smart, respected, worthy of attention. But as the years deepen, the need to be right begins to cost more than it gives. It costs you closeness. It costs you curiosity. costs you the ability to simply be present with another human being without turning every exchange into a courtroom. But there is a famous teaching in the Vimamsaka Sutta where the Buddha invited his own followers to examine him, to question him, to test his words as a goldsmith tests gold. He did not demand belief. He asked for investigation. That is the posture of someone more interested in truth than in being right. The need to be right is not wisdom. It is fear dressed in certainty. Fear that if you are wrong, you are less. Fear that if you soften your position, you will lose something. But what you actually lose is connection. The moment you decide to win an argument with your partner, your child, your friend, you may win the point, but you lose the bridge. As you age, practice saying 3 of the most powerful words in any language. I was wrong. Watch what happens. Watch how the room exhales. Watch how your own chest opens when you stop defending a wall that never needed to be there. The third thing to release is the addiction to busyness. Somewhere along the way, the world convinced us that stillness is laziness and that rest is surrender. We filled our calendars like we were building monuments to our own importance. We said yes to everything not because we wanted to, but because saying no felt like failure. But the Buddha sat still under a tree. He did not build an empire. He did not launch a movement through activity. He closed his eyes, turned inward, and from that stillness, an entire tradition of liberation was born. In Buddhist psychology, the restless need to always be doing something is called uddhacca. It is one of the 5 hindrances to clarity. Restlessness is not productivity. It is the mind running from itself. When you are always busy, you never have to feel. You never have to sit with the grief you have been postponing. You never have to face the question you have been avoiding. The noise of doing fills the space where knowing should live. As you grow older, the bravest thing you can do is stop. Stop moving, stop producing, stop earning your right to exist. Sit somewhere quiet. Watch the light change across the wall. Listen to the sound of your own breathing, not as a practice, not as a technique, just as a return to yourself. Feel your feet on the ground right now. Notice the sensation of contact, the weight of your body being held by the earth. You do not have to earn this. The ground holds you regardless. The 4th thing to stop is comparing your life to the lives of others. This one is quiet and vicious. It does not announce itself. Most it slips in through a screen, through a photo, through a casual comment someone makes at dinner. And suddenly, your life, the one you were content with 5 minutes ago, feels insufficient. The Buddha spoke often about the poison of conceit, which in Pali is called mana. And mana is not only thinking you are better than others. It includes thinking you are worse. It includes the entire act of measuring yourself against another being as though life were a competition with a scoreboard. When you compare, you take the richness of your own experience and flatten it into a single dimension. You reduce decades of love, pain, growth, and quiet courage into a number, a title, a possession, or an appearance. There is a Zen saying that captures this beautifully. The flower does not think of competing with the flower next to it. It just blooms. Your life is not a rough draft of someone else's finished novel. It is a living document written in your own handwriting, full of crossings out and unexpected turns, and that is exactly what makes it sacred. Stop reading over someone else's shoulder. Return to your own page. The 5th thing to stop is postponing your peace. I will be happy when I retire. I will rest when the kids are settled. I will take care of myself when things slow down. These are the quiet lies we tell ourselves year after year until one day we realize the conditions we were waiting for never arrived. or they arrived, and the peace we expected did not come with them. The Buddha taught that the nature of conditioned existence is that it will always offer one more thing to chase, one more problem to solve, one more milestone to reach. This is the wheel of samsara, not a place you go, but a pattern of mind that always defers fulfillment to the next moment. Peace is not at the end of the road. Peace is the way you walk the road. It is available in this breath, not the next one. In this room, not the next destination. In this body, not some future version of yourself that has finally earned the right to rest. Right now, soften the muscles around your eyes. Let your jaw unclench. Notice how much tension you are holding without even knowing it. That tension is the body's way of reaching forward, bracing for what has not happened yet. Let it dissolve. The present moment has already arrived. You do not need to chase it. The sixth thing to stop is clinging to who you used to be. There is a particular grief that comes with aging that nobody talks about openly. Thus, it is the grief of looking in the mirror and not recognizing the person looking back. Not because you have changed too much, but because you are still expecting the version of yourself from 20 years ago. The Buddhist teaching of anicca, impermanence, is not only about accepting that the world changes, it is about accepting that you change. The person who could run 5 miles without stopping, who stayed up until dawn and felt fine, who turned heads in a room, that person was real. But that person was also a wave, and waves do not stop moving. Clinging to a former version of yourself is like pressing pause on a river. It creates an impossible tension. The water wants to move. Your life wants to move. But you are standing there with both hands out, trying to hold a shape that already dissolved. And there is a story of an aging samurai who could no longer wield his sword with the speed of his youth. Instead of lamenting his body, he became a gardener. And in the silence of tending soil, he found a peace that the battlefield never offered. You are not less because you have changed. You are more weathered, more carved, more shaped by the hands of life. The face in the mirror is not a ruin, it is a landscape. The seventh thing to stop is avoiding the thought of death. In the West, death is hidden behind hospital curtains and polished language. We say passed away. We say no longer with us. We say lost as though death were a misplacement rather than the most certain event of every life. But in Buddhism, there is a practice called maranasati, which means mindfulness of death. It is not morbid. It is clarifying. The Buddha recommended it not to create fear, but to create urgency. When you remember that your time is limited, you stop wasting it on things that do not matter. There is a Tibetan saying, "The problem is you think you have time." When you sit with the truth of your own mortality, really sit with it, not as an idea, but as a felt reality in your body, something extraordinary happens. The petty arguments fade. The need to impress vanishes. The urgency to love, to forgive, to say what you mean, rises like a tide. Death is not the opposite of life. It is the frame around it. And like any frame, it gives shape, proportion, and meaning to the picture it holds. Without the awareness of death, life becomes an endless hallway with no doors. With it, every room you enter becomes vivid. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine you have 1 year left, not with sadness, but with clarity. What would you stop doing? What would you finally begin? Let that answer guide you, not someday, but today. The eighth thing to stop is trying to control everything. Control is the mind's favorite illusion. We plan, we prepare, we create lists and systems and safeguards. And still, life arrives uninvited, rearranging everything we thought was settled. The Buddha taught a profound truth through the concept of upadana, which means clinging or grasping. When we grip life too tightly, we crush the very thing we are trying to protect. We control our children until they stop calling. We control our health routines until the joy of eating vanishes. We control outcomes until every day becomes a performance measured by results rather than lived with presence. And there is a Zen parable about a man who kept his prized bonsai tree perfectly trimmed. Every branch sculpted, every leaf positioned. One day a storm blew through and snapped the tree in half. He wept. But in the following spring, new branches grew from the broken trunk in directions he never could have planned. And the tree became more beautiful than anything he had designed. Nature does not control. It responds. It adapts. It surrenders to the season and trusts the process. The river does not force its way to the ocean. It follows the shape of the land, moving around every obstacle with patience and grace. As you age, let your hands open. Let the outcomes surprise you. Let the people you love become who they are, not who you planned them to be. The deepest peace comes not from mastering life, but from dancing with it. And now we arrive at the ninth and final truth, the one that holds all the others. Stop believing you are separate from this world. This is the deepest teaching in the Buddhist tradition, the understanding of interdependence, or what in Pali is called pratityasamutpada, dependent origination. Nothing exists alone. Not a thought, not a breath, not a life. Everything arises in relationship. You are the rain that fell last spring, the food your mother carried in her body, the light that traveled 8 minutes from the sun to warm your skin this morning. The illusion of separateness is the root of all the other habits we have discussed. We hold grudges because we believe we are separate from the one who hurt us. We compare because we believe we are separate from the one we envy. We fear death because we believe we are separate from the life that continues after us. But the truth, the deep, quiet, undeniable truth, is that you have never been separate. Not for a single breath. When you walk in a forest and feel a sudden peace, it is not because the forest is doing something to you. It is because you are remembering that you are not separate from it. The oxygen in your lungs was breathed out by those trees. The water in your veins once fell as rain on their roots. You are not visiting nature. You are nature, visiting itself. The Buddha saw this clearly on the night of his awakening. He did not transcend the world. He became intimate with it. He saw the web of causes and connections that links every being to every other being. And in that seeing, the walls of self dissolved. This is not philosophy, and this is the most practical wisdom you will ever receive. Because when you truly feel your connection to all things, the need to hoard disappears. The need to defend disappears. The need to perform disappears. What remains is simple presence, the warmth of being alive, the tenderness of knowing that this breath, this exact one, will never come again. Feel the air on your skin. Feel the quiet weight of your own body. Somewhere outside, a bird is singing a song it did not rehearse. Somewhere, a river is moving toward the sea without asking for directions. Somewhere, a child is laughing, and the sound is traveling through air that has been breathed by every being who ever lived on this earth. You are part of that. You always have been. As you age, do not shrink. Expand. Drop what is heavy. Keep what is light. Walk gently. Speak kindly. Forgive freely. Rest deeply. And when the time comes to close your eyes for the last night, let it be with the quiet knowledge that you did not waste your precious life carrying stones. You set them down, one by one, along the path. And in their place, you carried nothing but the warm, luminous glow of being awake. That is enough. That has always been enough.